All right, so I'm back from the DMV for the fourth time, and guess what? Our Grom Reaper has a VIN number. It is officially recognized by the state. It's actually a very exciting day. This requires dancing. Dance of joy. That's fucking great. For those that don't know, we built a motorcycle from scratch. We bought a wrecked Honda Grom with a non-rebuildable title. We then spent a year doing things we had never done before, like build a frame, a gas tank, a fender, a front end, a solo seat, until finally, with many a time-consuming small detail, like wiring, finding the right bolt size, modifying bolts, checking all the bolts to make sure they're tight. It's really amazing how many small details there are in making a vehicle. But really for me, a lot of the time is spent overcoming my own self-doubt. Because there is a lot of doubt in doing something for the first time. You don't know the outcome. Should I be doing this? What if I make a mistake? How will I know I made a mistake? And the big one in this case, after I've done all this work and spent all this time and money, will I even be able to get a VIN number for this bike and drive it on the road? That's why you do this stuff, right? So you can enjoy it, right? And that is where we find ourselves today.
Hey Jason, this is Ivan from the Department of Motor Vehicles. I was reaching out to you to let you know that the application that you submitted for your assembled motorcycle was rejected.
It seriously was a major worry for me that I would not be able to get this thing street legal, and I would end up with a low-riding, hardtail, off-road vehicle. What is that? It's not the best outcome, that's what. And a lot of my worries stemmed from not having done this before, not knowing the process, not having any gauge for what the outcome could be, the range of outcomes could be. And now that I have done it, I might do some things differently, of course. But first, let me tell you how this process works. How do you get a VIN number for a motorcycle that you made from scratch? In my case, first I acquired an entire bike. It was wrecked. It had a non-rebuildable title. What if I fail? What if I can't do it? Which in Texas, which is where I am, and it's going to vary by other states and other localities, non-repairable, non-rebuildable means that that frame cannot go back on the road. Parts from that bike can go back on the road on another bike frame. So that means I can use the engine from that bike and the wheels and handlebars and electrics and things like that, and I can put them on another frame with a different VIN number. That's really what it comes down to, is that the VIN number is what the bike is legally. And so if I have another frame with a different VIN number, I can transfer all kinds of parts onto that frame. And what I ended up doing in my case was I used the engine, one of the wheels, and all the electronics. Then next, I built the new bike. I had to build the bike. You have to finish, make a whole new bike. And then I can take it through the legal process of seeing whether or not the state will recognize it as a bike. And that is the nerve-wracking part for me. And once the bike was finished, the first thing I did was load it up in a van and take it to the police auto theft unit. Those guys regularly inspect. It's like once a month or something, they inspect vehicles, and it's all kinds of weird stuff. Homemade things. Trailers are more common than homemade motorcycles or homemade vehicles. Vehicles that have been imported from other countries, or vehicles that are, for whatever reason, are flagged for possible theft issues. They get inspected by the police department, and what those guys are doing, they're just looking in their computer. They're looking at numbers that are on the bike, like the engine for the motorcycle has a number on it, so they can look up that number and make sure what I'm telling them lines up with what they got in their database. They looked for two things. Was it the number on the engine and numbers on the frame? That was it. That's all they looked at. And in my case, the history of the engine made sense because I have the paperwork. I have that non-rebuildable title for the bike that engine came out of. So everything checked off on my case. And then that was it. And then I passed the police auto theft unit tests. Basically give you a little form they sign and fill out, whatever, they give that to you, and you're supposed to take that to the DMV, the Department of Motor Vehicles. And once at the DMV, they provided me with a list of things. And one of the things was I needed a certified weight on the vehicle, on the motorcycle. There's a number of ways. You have to go to a certified weight station, and the closest one I could find was a metal scrapyard. I took my bike there, they weighed it, I paid them like 20 bucks, and they printed out a little form that had a certified, and they stamped it and everything, and there was a certified weight for that vehicle. And it turns out my chopper version of a Honda Grom weighs 5 pounds less than the stock Grom. So serious chopping going on here. And so after several trips to the DMV, looking at forms, waiting on forms, I had to have a manager look at the forms, I had to come back and all that sort of stuff. I got issued a VIN, a vehicle identification number, for my little motorcycle, my little homemade motorcycle. And one of the things to keep in mind if you're at all thinking about doing this is that you need to keep all your receipts. I would recommend keeping everything. Anything you buy for your build, keep the receipt for it. The metal. I built a frame from scratch. I had to purchase the metal, the tubing and whatnot to build that frame. Keep all of those receipts for the raw material metal. That's important. The state is going to want to have those receipts. Because again, the DMV, much like the police department, was only interested in two things. They wanted to know how I made that frame, all the receipts associated with making that frame, and the engine, all the receipts associated with the engine. So I had the title for the engine, I had the receipts for my metal. That's all they needed. I had a whole bunch of other receipts for the leather, for the motorcycle seat, to the headlights and the headlight bucket and all this other stuff. They didn't care about those. We don't need those receipts. So then I had to fill out a form, and I'll put a link in the description here to the forms for Texas. I had to fill out this form, and I had to pay $2. $2, that's it, which seems really cheap to me. I don't know what is up with that, how they chose $2, but. And now I've got a VIN number, and it's a great day. And so one of the major things from this experience is that I am making a habit of, I've got a folder now where I just put all of my receipts for my metal that I'm purchasing because I have a bit of a metal collection. I have extra metal laying over from projects, and I have a habit of utilizing leftover metal. So I need receipts from those because you never know what metal is going to go into a project, a future project that I may need to prove where I got the metal from. So that's one of the things I'm starting to do. Though really from this experience, what I think I'm going to do on the next time is I'm highly unlikely to build a frame from scratch. Before I did this whole process, I had the thought of like, oh, there's always these bikes on the internet where a person has lost the title and they want to sell it for 500 bucks or whatever. And previously I was like, oh, well, maybe I could get one of those and use the engine out of that and build a whole bike around a whole new frame or whatever, and that would be brilliant. But now I realize that the engine number, they're going to want to track all that stuff, and that's not going to work out so well. I'm still going to need the title for that bike, so why mess with those bikes? I've yet to find a good reason to buy a bike that has a lost title. So in the future, if I build another frame, I'm going to start with a bike that has a clean title and all that stuff, so I can just have that frame and that bike, and then if I want to modify things, great. And then I will just use like the head tube and cut everything else away or whatever, that sort of thing, and build off that head tube my whole new frame if I want to get that crazy. So heavily modifying an existing clean title bike sounds a lot easier to me. I did not enjoy sitting in the DMV having some bureaucratic process decide whether or not all my hard work was for anything, you know? I don't think I'm gonna go that route again. Sitting in the DMV, I had a lot of time to think about whether or not I had made a mistake, and there was some time sitting there where I thought I had thrown away a lot of money and time for nothing. But ultimately, we got the VIN, and it was awesome. We set out a goal, we persisted, we achieved the goal, and it feels good. But the life lesson in this case for me is that I achieved the goal I set for myself. And a lot of times what I'm doing here in this shop on all these videos is setting out a goal for myself that I have not done before, that is difficult for me, and I am persisting through trials and tribulations and hard difficulties or whatever, struggling, challenges, etc., all that sort of stuff to achieve this goal that I set for myself. And at the end, I learn something about myself. I learn something about a process, and I almost always learn that I can do it. Whatever it is, whatever the goal is I set for myself, I can do it. And that helps to push away self-doubt in the future, because then I have confidence. I replace the self-doubt with confidence because I've been there before and I've done it and I know I can do it. And in this case, I built the best bike I could at the time with the skills I had at that time. And now I'm rewarded with the knowledge gained from that experience. And now I could build an even better bike in the future. So here's my little inspirational attempt to encourage you to do whatever it is. It doesn't have to be building motorcycles. It could be doing anything, like I'm taking classes, trying to earn a degree in welding, right? I am challenging myself to do something I have never done before. Whatever it is, challenging yourself to do something you've never done before. It's good for your brain. It's good for your mental outlook, dude. This is what I find. It allows you to learn and know something more about yourself that you didn't know before. Where your limit is. Always looking for your limit. Is it out here or is it out here? Like, you don't know unless you go there, right? And that is what challenging yourself is all about. And I love to challenge myself. I don't know why. I've always done that. I've always been like, where's that limit, dude? Sometimes I've found the limit, and now I know. But a lot of times the limit is so much further out than you expect it to be. Like, you have no idea what you're capable of. It's way out there for the most part. And for me, really what it is just trying. Trying is the most important part. The journey is the most important part. We've all heard that, but it is. I mean, that's where the lessons are learned. It's in the journey. And I've also, come to the conclusion that there's no such thing as perfect, dude. Like, the welding school thing has really helped me a lot out with that concept, is that there's no such thing as perfect, because every welder I've ever talked to is always trying to get better. No one's like, I figured it out, bro. I have the perfect weld. None of them have found the perfect weld. They're always like trying to get that extra little bit towards perfection. And that's everything. Everything I've ever tried, everything I've ever seen, it's always trying to get towards perfection. I've got this piece of cut out by a computer. It's not perfect. I have to go through and clean it up and clean up the edge. It's not perfect, dude. Even a computer, it's not perfect, I'm telling you. And so holding yourself up to a standard of perfection is a mistake. Just allow yourself to make mistakes. That it's a much better way to go about things. And then that allows you to just try. And then you go, all right, I learned this. I can do better next time now that having learned what I learned here. And you go forth and you get better and you get closer and closer and closer and closer to perfection. But you never get there. That's the thing. It's a lot of fun, the process of trying to get there. And that's it. It's the journey. It's like the key to life. The secret to happiness is that you just keep trying and enjoy the process. So now, with that bit of encouragement out of the way, what I need to do with this motorcycle now, I treat it like any other vehicle. Like something you just bought, I need to go get it inspected, go to my DMV or the tax office here in Texas and get the title transferred into my name, or in this case, get a title issued to me in my name. And that's it. And then I can ride this thing around. So that's it. That's the process of getting a VIN number for a motorcycle frame that you made yourself. Isn't that crazy? Like, who does this? Like, I never expected to do this myself. But I got to the point where I was like, this is a challenge, and I want to know, like, how does this work? And, nobody else is telling me how this works, so I have to figure it out myself. And that's it. It took me a lot of time, and in case you didn't get the impression that this was a lot of work by how much I tried to inspire you a minute ago, there was a lot of emotion wrapped up in an effort wrapped up in making this thing. And so it took a lot, it means a lot, therefore all the inspirational talk. That's it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Good luck on your process if you're working on a journey of your own. All right, so we now need to stamp our VIN number onto the bike. So I've got my little die stamping set here. Let's do it. Well, that was nerve-wracking. The X turned out absolutely horrible. You can barely tell it's an X, really. So, not happy with how that turned out. It looks really, really not professional. But, we learn as we go.